AI has infiltrated in many places, but one place that I personally didn't think it was going to pop into anytime soon was museums, but it actually likely has already happened. So let's discuss the situation. This is a video that was made by user Kayla Katz.
Yep, just a few steps away from Van Gogh's irises and works by Rembrandt and Blake, and surrounded by real photographs taken of and by real life people, a piece of AI generated imagery hangs unabashedly in a brain melting example of our boring, disgusting dystopia. The AI image, not art because AI can't be art, was made by Mateus Sauter Morera, who is therefore not an artist. Is displayed in a photographic exhibition entitled The Queer Lens, which is even more annoying because it's in a progressive exhibition with marginalized communities and peoples. So this garbage is just bringing it all down. The subject matter is very cool as it brings to light Costa Rican pejamachos who were queer cowboys.
So what Kayla is talking about is this piece in question. And this was an article written by the Smithsonian a year ago, February 21st, 2025. The Getty Museum acquires its first AI-generated artwork. And this is the full image of the photograph that was acquired. Whereas it says it looks like it was a photograph, but instead, Salter Morera used artificial intelligence and photo editing tools to generate this striking work. For background of the artist creator, Salter Morera is a Costa Rican artist who splits his time between Berlin and Costa Rica. He created, I'm so sorry, I sound so American when I read this, but Christian and El Amor de Cale as part of a series called Pegamachos, which reimagines a period in the 1970s when straight cowboys on the Guanacaste coast secretly hooked up with young gay men from the city. And the background continues that while he is a photographer and continued using his photography skills to create the images, that instead, because of the secrecy of the culture, he didn't want to risk exposing the people's identity, so he turned to AI. And that he does not consider his works photographs. Quote, I view AI as a creative medium in itself, distinct from photography, end quote. And that the Getty Museum did not have any ethical concerns about acquiring it because Sauter Morera uses hundreds of commands and choices that take months to perfect, end quote. And that, quote, AI is just one element that Sauter Morera incorporated into his complex working method, end quote. Here we have another photograph, or I guess generated image. I feel like I'm curious about your thoughts, right? I feel like this can definitely lead to a situation where it's a big slippery slope. First off, it's the view of is AI generated imagery even considered artwork? A lot of people don't consider it artwork at all because it's stuff made with a machine. Other people are on the boat of, well, art is the creative mind that the artist has, and the AI is just the medium. And that was something that was actually debated in this New York Times article titled Amid the AI Deluge, What Counts as Art? Asked the curators. This was written by Craig S. Smith, October 18th, 2025. It discusses basically this piece where it's like constantly changing. It is generated by AI and it is in New York's MoMA and in South Korea. And different curators have different views, where the senior curator at MoMA says the technology is not the art, but in the end, it's about the person's creativity and vision. And the article highlights that curators seem most interested in artists who work with the computer code of AI systems. An artist who organized an exhibit called the Creative Machine Exhibit in London says, things work best when the machine is a creative partner. And another person, Maya Ackerman, professor, AI musician, and author of Creative Machines, AI, Art, and Us, says, quote, a world in which machines write our music and make our art is a world we could lean into if we wanted to. But I really think it's probably a net loss for humanity to disengage the arts to such a complete degree. So between all of these, I am curious about what you think. Do you think the medium is what matters? Do you think it is the creative mind at the end of the day? But I think there is a slight second issue that might arise where again, like, I don't know what the LLM that was used to create this, right? But like generative AI cannot create something that does not already exist. AI can only create based on things that already exist. Generative AI uses a data set that is provided to it and then creates a new image, etc., right? But there is a basis that it runs off of. So there are people's photographs and people's faces and people's imagery that was used to then create this. And I just worry, and maybe I'm being too paranoid about this, that there might be ethical concerns of, I don't know, this photograph being somebody's doppelganger. Because when you're generating a bunch of people, images of people, etc., and their likeness, and you're using it to represent any sort of topic, this is talking about queer cowboys, right? But regardless, even if you generate an image of, I don't know, like an artist, a queer cowboy, a barista, whatever, and it's generated using somebody's face, hypothetically, what if somebody already exists who kind of looks like that? And then people are going to be like, oh, are you this queer cowboy? And they're going to be like, yo, I'm not. That's not me. I don't know. That is just my personal potential fear right? Of what's gonna happen if somebody looks like this. And maybe they're okay with like having a similar likeness to this piece, right? But not everybody would be okay with their image just being used to represent something that is not them.
It's mostly in the 1970s in Costa Rica. But there are models you can hire, and there are painters who can paint. There are artists who can make art, not people with prompts. The Getty has no excuses for why they're allowing this. Their response is so bad that it looks like they asked AI to make an excuse for them. And the guy who typed in the prompt to get this image, his excuses are even worse. He wanted to see what pega machos would look like nowadays in modern clothes. Bro, just hire a model. You could look up some articles to read more about this, and be sure to complain to the Getty.
I really like the point that Kayla was making at the end as well, because again, the idea of keeping secrecy is completely fair, right? Where, sure, yes, some people do not want to reveal certain aspects of their life, and that's completely understandable. There are alternatives. Again, exactly like what Kayla said, you could just go hire a model. Like, you are a photographer. Get a costume set designer to help you design the set. Like, sometimes people make it seem like generative AI is the only option, and truly, there's never only one option in life. Like, you have a choice. And in the comments, people definitely have their 2 cents to add. Somebody says, AI prompters considering themselves artists is like if I popped a lean cuisine in the microwave and called myself a professional chef. Other people, though, are saying, hey, like AI was the medium, but the idea did come from this person's mind. And other people in the comments added the context that this exhibit was from a while ago and it was taken down because the original Smithsonian article was from February 2025. But Kayla asked that the Getty didn't take the AI image down, it was just left with the exhibit. I don't know. I'm just curious about your thoughts at the end of the day. I always just think that when it comes to a case of like, is AI needed in this? I feel like the answer is almost always no. I'm speaking generative AI. There are cases where AI can be very good and beneficial. Again, I always cite this one, but AI has been used to discover like millions of protein structures that just feasibly was not possible to be discovered prior. So it's made a lot of scientific advancements. It can be used for good. But I'm speaking in the case of like optional uses of AI like this. I don't know. It never really feels necessary. But I'm curious about your thoughts at the end of the day about this. And again, don't send hate to any parties involved. If you like this video, I appreciate it if you like and subscribe. Don't forget to check me out on Etsy. I have digital art there for streamers and creators and a coffee with free resources. And I'm cooking some merch up. I am wearing a shirt right now. Yippee! It is cats having tea. So yeah, I hope to catch you guys in my streams. I stream Mondays and Saturdays at 6 p.m. or Thursdays at 7:30 or in another video. Peace.